What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid, give you a quick overview of some of the data points, what they just put out, and why that makes me extremely happy. Before we get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is up 2.96%, 302 the low, 318 the high. So it is piggybacking off of the generally good momentum in the broader market and kind of low volume though today. So 52.5 million shares being traded, 102 is the average. Always a good day whenever Lucid is green and Tesla is red. So Tesla is down 3.74%. But what is really driving the market today higher is negative data. Kind of inverse again, but retail sales came in lower than the forecast, so 0.4 forecast of 0.5, actual 0.4. Initial jobless claims came in at 217,000. Forecast is 209. So not necessarily the best. You did also have a couple of Fed speakers as well that kind of reconfirmed yesterday's CPI data being relatively good. So you have that alongside negative data. What does that mean? Rate cuts. Not necessarily any change for the January 29th meeting, but you do see some changes already for the March 19th. So essentially, that is good. Maybe we might see a 25 basis point cut for that, and that would really help the whole EV market. And obviously, they're very sensitive to interest rates. But all in all, I think Lucid is finally ready to move higher. But one thing that actually got me fairly excited was looking at their news. So they did put out news early this morning. So Canadian pricing announced for the highly anticipated Lucid Gravity SUV. For those of you that kind of have watched my channel for a while, that's one thing I have really complained about is outside the States, they kind of kill any momentum. And like, for instance, even Europe was recently announced. Whatever the currency conversion is, most recent one, they tack on another 15%. I never really understood whether that is Lucid or the third parties are kind of administering that. Same goes for Canada. Even a lot of the Airs, if you wanted to buy it, you're basically paying the currency conversion plus 10%, or in some cases 15%. So it kind of very much was a natural deterrent. But this news that came out says that the pricing, so the Gravity Touring is going to start at 113.5, Grand Touring starting at 134.5. So if we kind of pull this up right over here, so we have the basic conversions, plug in 94.9, so that's kind of the currently the USD what they're charging, that works out to be 136. So Lucid is actually charging less than the actual fair currency conversion right now. So in general, I think that's good. Maybe one thing as well that really happened recently was the Canadian dollar got killed, but I'm not here to kind of talk about that. Nonetheless, they improved this tenfold. So they must be listening to investors and just people's customers kind of viewpoint. And they are definitely going to get a lot more Canadian sales as a byproduct of this. Now, the only next big thing is for them to do this same type of scenario in Europe, and then they'll be able to massively expand. Potentially, they could be doing that coinciding with their massive expansion, but nonetheless, this does make me very, very happy. So what is your viewpoint on that in the comments below? They also did a post on social media basically saying the exact same thing. So I think Lucid is definitely working on their marketing. So good stuff. Aside from that, shorts are finally getting the middle finger, realizing that Lucid is ready to kind of move higher. 847,000 shares are being returned. 19.15% of their free float is being shorted. Works out to be 228.17 million shares. Utilization 96.19, and DTC though has been going down, but still is very, very high. So that is 2.71 days. So if Lucid does put out something of substance, then yeah, you could see shorts getting kind of royally screwed. But aside from that though, looking at the options, 763,000 in calls, 2.34 million in puts. Dollar value is very low today. 67% of all the options being done are bearish in nature, but it is in reality this right here. So between 1140 and 1145, there was 1.5 million in premiums that was taken. And so ultimately, if we kind of look at this a little bit closer, It stems from two main options, and most likely it's the same entity since it's duplicate, but it is for January 16th, 2026, so basically 1 year out, and it is a $2.50 put. It was sold, so generally that's kind of a good thing, but still for them to sell a 250 put, and given the price, it is seen as bearish. So once again, that's something to kind of keep in mind potentially, but nonetheless though, at the end, they could be doing this just to collect the premiums, because if it does close above 250 by said expiry date, they get to keep that 1.34 million and also 149,000. So pretty good deal all in all. And this is exactly one thing that I've stated with a lot of you, is that if you do really like a stock, sell some puts. Just based on the orientation and the strike price, this one is seen as bearish, but if you like the stock and you're actually willing to buy it, then sell some puts. That's what I do a lot, and honestly I love getting the premiums. I tried to target between like $500 to $700 every single week just in premiums. So definitely research it as worthwhile. But moving on, over here, you do see of the call options that are being purchased, roughly around $4 is anticipated. And looking at the February 28th, you're not still seeing that much in options activity, more so around that 350, and so that would encumber their earnings. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub $3 ish for the next little bit. And then this one stands out, so that is that January 16th, 2026. So yeah, I think all in all, definitely there is a lot more upside than down. These are all the transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So kind of mixed. You have some buying, some selling. So ultimately, this is kind of moving exactly what is happening right here. And then over and above that, you have shorts kind of returning. So I see that as pretty good stuff. With it at $3.13, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. 291 is going to be the next strong kind of support. 319 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. Kind of did bounce off of this general area, so we know that that is a strong resistance point going forward. So just watch for that going into the next couple of trading days. No new analyst ratings, nothing along those lines. Based on the actual chart itself, things are looking fairly good. So bouncing off of that ALMA, really showing some signs it wants to move higher. One thing as well that's fairly optimistic is the fact that stochastic RSI is very oversold. So that could really stand to really help Lucid in the next couple of trading days. And if there is a continued amount of good companies unveiling their earnings, good macro data, or at least negative data to justify a rate cut, if that kind of makes sense, then yeah, you could see some kind of a strong move higher. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid. Are you buying the dip? Are you selling? Honestly, I haven't bought Lucid in a while. I did some calls when it was actually running up right here, but based on this news, I must admit this actually is leading me to buy more. This is actually very good. It goes to show that they are going to get a hell of a lot more Canadian sales from this, at least how I see things, because that was like nobody would want to pay 10% more. I know some people say it's not that big of a deal, but it is in some capacity. And so I think in general they are moving towards just better efficiency, better appearance, coming from international standpoint as well. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. And actually, now that I'm kind of talking out loud, I think this does coincide with them being tomorrow at the Montreal Auto Show, so that's very perfect timing as far as that goes. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon where I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolute bangers, including this. I put this one out yesterday. It was at 9 cents or 0.009 yesterday, so up a pretty solid 489%. So definitely pop over to my Patreon and take a look at a lot of my other buy signals. Many of them just in the month and a half have already doubled, some have quadrupled, and that's not even counting this one right here. So let me know your thoughts, and with all that, appreciate all of you watching.